Hi guys, how's everyone doing today? Thanks so much for hanging out with me. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Zita, and on my channel I'll be sharing a variety of DIYs with you, such as thrift store makeovers, upcycles. I'll be doing some room makeovers and thrift flips for resale, some home decorating, and I'm also going to share some recipes with you guys every now and again. If you haven't subscribed yet, please consider hitting that subscribe button and also click that notification bell. That way YouTube will notify you when I upload a new video. The more DIY friends we have, the better. And you can also follow me over on Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest, and Etsy at OakWell Home. Today I'll be participating in the Thrift Flip Road Trip Open Challenge hosted by our friends Teresa over at Our Green Acres and Trish and Kay at Crafting Cousins. I'll leave both their links in my description box and also the playlist for all of those participating in this challenge. So let's get started on today's video. So my thrift flip road trip is in Canada in the beautiful province of British Columbia. So I'm here at my local thrift store and I picked up a few trays that I'll be decoupaging. So let's get started and see what kind of trays I found and how I'm going to make these over. My first thrift flip is this brown tray that I picked up. It's almost kind of looks like a shiplap style with the little grooves in between. So here I'm going to do my spray painting first, and I have my handy dandy mask on here to protect myself from all those fumes, and I have my safety glasses on. So if you don't have that, I would suggest getting some. So I did give this 2 coats of spray paint and it wasn't getting in between those grooves. So I had some homemade chalk paint here and I gave that a couple of coats of chalk paint. And once that was all dry, I gave it a nice fine sanding with some fine sandpaper, 220 grit. And then after I had that sanding done, I used some sanding paper to distress the piece and bring it back to the wood. And right here, I'm just using some rice paper here. And this is a beautiful sunflower and it has a sepia color going on for it. So I'm just using my cutting mat here to size it down to fit inside the tray. And this is very thin, so I just use my metal ruler there to cut along the edges. So I fit that in, and it was still a little too big, so I'm using a paper press here and then paint, what do you call that? I'm lost for words right now. Anyway, I went along the edge in there and just cut the remainder of the decoupage paper off so it would fit in there properly. Spatula, that's what it's called. And right here, guys, I'm using a wire brush to make the edges a little more natural looking. And don't go hard on this brush because it is metal, and I forget what the name of this brush is and what it's used for. So if you guys know, let me know in the comments. I have forgotten all of a sudden, but I had it in with my tools and crafting supplies, so I just gave the paper a little bit of a rip there to make it look more natural. And there I'm applying my Mod Podge inside and fitting it in there nicely. And I'm using an old shower cap that I have here to smooth everything out. Go lightly, don't go too heavy handed because you may rip the paper if it's very thin. And if you're using something like napkins and stuff like that, you'll want to go easy on that too. So I always start in the center and move out. So I finish the one side and then I move over to the other side. I find there's less room for error that way. It'll be more of a smoother. And I'm really loving this tray, guys, with the little slats in between, because the decoupage paper is fitting right in between there, and you'll see in the end how beautiful it looks with it going down in between those slats. So I'm just smoothing it all out here, getting it all in the corners, and like I said, I'm going with a light hand. And once I have that done, I thought it needed a little something else, so I used some black wax here. So there, I'm pointing there, guys, where you can see in between the slats there. It looks so good. So yeah, so now I'm going to use a black wax. Actually, I'm not going to use a black wax. I'm going to put some polyacrylic on top first, and I'm going to let that dry overnight, and then I'm going to apply my black wax right here. And this is a Bear that I got at the Home Depot, and I take the wax out of the can, guys, and so I'm not contaminating the all of the wax inside there. So I did distress this piece with some sandpaper, but I thought it needed a little bit more, so I just put some black wax in the corners and along the edges, kind of where you would get some natural wear, and just so it ties in with that paper. I used the black wax, tied in perfectly with this paper, with it being that sepia color. And I did wipe back that wax a little bit. What do you think, guys? Isn't that beautiful? I love this paper. So after I had the black wax wiped back, I did apply a clear finishing wax to the whole piece. So guys, this is what it looked like before, and here's the beautiful transformation. What do you think of this thrift flip, guys? For my second thrift flip, I've picked up this metal red tray, and I didn't like the color. I liked the handles, so I started out by putting some masking tape or paint tape, I guess, around the handles. So when I spray painted it black, it wasn't going to get on any of those handles because I wanted to keep the wood on the handles. So I'm using a Bear paint and primer spray paint here, and I have my mask on again. I gave this a couple of coats of black spray paint, and then I used my homemade chalk paint again. And guys, if you haven't used the homemade chalk paint, it is so much cheaper. It probably costs you less than $1 to make a cup of it. So I'll leave a link in the description box for my homemade paint recipe video if you're interested in seeing that. So I gave this tray probably four coats of paint, guys, to make it really white. And I gave it a black paint first because I didn't want any of that red coming through. And I was thinking about even distressing back some of that chalk paint to the black, but I changed my mind, and I did give it a sealant after the black spray paint was dry as well. So here I'm cutting my decoupage paper to size to fit inside the tray. What do you think of this paper, guys? This looks very vintage, doesn't it? Cottagecore style. And again, I'm using my metal brush here to give it that natural kind of wear and tear. So this is what it looks like around the edges. And here for this metal tray, instead of the Mod Podge, I'm applying the polyacrylic. I'm going to give that a try. So I started from the one side and then kind of worked my way from the end to the other end. And I'm using my shower cap here again. You can use a plastic bag, or I've seen plastic gloves too, actually, that you can get in the hair dye sometimes. So if you dye your hair and you have some plastic gloves laying around, you can use those too. That kind of smooths it out. Doesn't smooth it out completely, but this piece right here and this paper looks very vintage, so I'm okay with a few wrinkles. So once that was dry, the next day I applied some polyacrylic. You can probably wait a few hours if you don't want to do that. Now this one with the brown handles, once I took off the tape, I found the sides to look too white, so I got out my antiquing wax here and I applied some of that all around the white just to darken it up a little bit and to fit in with that script print there on that decoupage paper. It was kind of like a beigey color, so to tie in with the handles and that script print on the paper, I used my antiquing wax, and I also used some black wax in there too to give the color more depth. Sometimes when you start doing stuff like this, you kind of get carried away, but I think it looks good in the end with the paper. Let me know what you guys think once you see it here in the end after I have all the waxes applied. I think it gives it that vintage vibe, I guess, with the antiquing wax and the black wax blended in there as well. So again, I pull some of that wax out and just put it on the lid of the can instead of dipping my brush in the actual wax. And I'm just wiping back any excess wax there and just kind of putting some on the paper as well. And once this was completed, again, I used my finishing wax on the whole piece, just to cure that chalk paint. So this is what it looked like before, and here is what it looks like now, guys. Let me know in the comments, what do you think of this thrift flip? Do you think this piece looks vintage and cottagecore? And for my final thrift flip today, I have this old beat up tray here. It's a beautiful wood tray, but it's looking a little shattered. And again, I'm using my homemade chalk paint, and I'm just painting this piece. I think I gave this a good 3 or 4 coats as well, just to cover up all of that dark. And I did use a smaller brush after to get into the corners there with my paint. And once that was all painted and dried, I used my 220 sandpaper here. It's like a sponge sandpaper. It's awesome. And that was the highest grit they had. So I smoothed that out and then wiped down my piece. And for this piece, I'm using this beautiful lavender script decoupage paper. This paper is very, very thin, and I kind of wish I would have ordered this a little bit larger so it would have fit into that tray a little nicer. So it doesn't completely fit into this tray, and I did order a script stamp from Amazon, but it hasn't come in yet that I could have used on this. So I'm using an artist brush here and some water, and going along the area where I want to rip my decoupage paper so it fits in the tray, and that's going to give it that natural look as well, like that natural wear and tear look. And I do use this metal brush all along the edges as well to give it that natural wear and tear. because I didn't want the bottom and the top to have that straight edge. So as you can see there's some paper on that brush. So that's what the edges look like, a little bit ripped and looks more natural. So with this piece, I'm starting in the center and working my way out to the end and doing the same for the other side. And I'm using Mod Podge here instead of the polyacrylic. And what do you guys use? Do you guys use the Mod Podge, or do you use some other type of medium for your decoupaging? Let me know in the comments, guys, like what you guys prefer to use. Is there something better than the Mod Podge? Do you guys like to use a polyacrylic as well, or it just depends on the piece you're working on what you use? So here again, I'm smoothing out my piece with the plastic, and I'm giving this the coat of Mod Podge on top after that was dry. I think I waited till the next day. So this is what it looks like, guys. And you can see there at the top and the bottom there's no script, and like I said, once I get that script stamp in, I might just stamp there on the top and the bottom with that. But in the meantime, I'm using a black wax again to go along the edges just on the inside. I'm not going to distress the rest of this piece. I'm just going to do the inside and kind of put some black along the edges of that decoupage paper just to tie it in a little bit more, and I wipe that back, and then it doesn't look as stark like because the paper doesn't fit in there. And I think I'm going to keep this piece for myself. I did add a finishing wax again around the whole piece, and yeah, I think I'm going to keep this piece for myself to just put my crafting supplies in along my desk there that I use all the time. So this is what it looked like before, all shabby, and now we have this beautiful lavender script print with this little bird in the corner and the little stamp. I love this paper. I'm gonna order some more of this, and this is what I put inside to make it look beautiful. Let me know, guys, which one was your favorite today of all of these trays. I hope you guys have enjoyed this thrift flip road trip. Don't forget to go check out the link in the description box and check out all of the other awesome crafters videos. Thanks so much for watching today, guys. I really appreciate you being here. Please consider hitting that subscribe button, and don't forget to click that notification bell for more videos like this one. We'll see you in the next video. Bye.